See how long it takes to boot up. It's on now. And there we go. So a couple of seconds and you're straight to the dashboard, no boot up time. And the interesting thing about this head unit is that when I got it out of the box and I turned it on for the first time, it did exactly the same thing. It's like a 2-second boot time. And of course the harness with the steering wheel control adapter works perfectly fine as well. As you can see, I can control the volume and I can change the tracks and everything using my steering wheel controls. That was all very much plug and play, and that is fabulous. Everything is crystal clear and really, really sharp. And it's vivid as well. Now the only customizability about this particular dashboard is that you can change the widgets if you so wish. So for example, if I didn't want to have music, I can touch this and I can have a compass instead. It does have a Snapdragon 6125 CPU, that's an 8-core CPU. And on top of that, it has 8 GB of memory. So it's got tons and tons of memory, tons of speed. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the usual speed tests that we do for everyday apps. I always use Waze and Spotify for this, and we just see how long it takes for them to boot up. So let's try Waze. Yeah, I mean, that's practically instantaneous. It doesn't really get much faster than that. I asked it to do something, it did it instantaneously. Perfection. So let's try Spotify. Okay, so that one took a few seconds, but again, it was just a few seconds, maybe 5 seconds. That's very, very fast indeed. Normally, Netflix, for example, wouldn't be on the Play Store. You'd search for it and you wouldn't find it, and you'd have to sideload it to be able to use it. That's not the case with this head unit, because this runs Android 12. And what that means is if we go into the Play Store and we search for Netflix, you're going to find it. In fact, we can even update it, because the beauty of this head unit having Android 12 is that you can have the latest version of Netflix, and you can have the latest version of most apps, and you can just get them normally on the Google Play Store really, really easily indeed. And there we go. Full access to the entire Netflix library, and naturally it's full 1080p, so whatever you watch is going to be literally in TV quality. It's just looks absolutely fantastic. So say I want to navigate, but I also want to listen to Spotify. So what I can do is I can press this button and then open Spotify, and now I have Spotify and navigation on the same screen at the same time, and it's the full version of the apps. Both apps are the full version, they're just in their own little windows on either side. This is sort of like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but a million times better, because instead of you getting the sort of low resolution cut down versions of the apps, you get the full version of any app on this split screen device, and it is absolutely fantastic. It really, really is. Now obviously, if we're talking about features, we do need to touch on Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Of course, this does have both of them. I actually have my Android phone connected to it at the moment, so if we go into Z-Link app here, we'll be able to see that this is the full Android Auto functionality on the big screen. You only need to connect your phone once using Bluetooth. It will automatically connect every time you get in the car. You have the ability to turn on 5.1 channels of sound. So if you're actually watching a movie on Netflix in this car, this head unit will decode into 5.1 channels of sound, proper real surround sound, if you have your individual speakers set up in the front left, front right, rear left, rear right, and center, because of course 5.1 does include that center speaker and it does need to be wired up. At the moment I would have 4.1 channels of sound. That removes the center speaker. It's all of the speakers plus subwoofer. That's what the 0.1 is the subwoofer. Anyway, that's what you have. If you don't have a subwoofer, of course, you would go for 4-channel. And what this is basically going to do is it's going to make sure that the head unit is set up for your specific sound setup in your car. So if we go down to equalizer, and you might be forgiven for thinking that this has a 16-band graphic equalizer, but in actual fact it has a 48-band graphic equalizer, because you actually have 2 more pages of 16 here. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy amount of control, but there's more, because these 48 bands on the graphic equalizer are only for the front left and front right speaker, because if you want to do the rear left and rear right, that has its own set of 48 bands that you can set, and then you can do the same for the center speaker, and you can do the same for the subwoofer. So you can literally set this car up exactly as you want. This has more control than any other head unit that I have ever seen. It is just absolutely crazy. Now, if you are not a really technical person or an audiophile and you don't really want to have to deal with all of this stuff, aside from simple mode, you have system sound. And system sound is just a bunch of presets. I don't think you'll find a head unit which actually has as much. Even Kenwood doesn't allow the level of control that this thing gives you. It's absolutely immense. You will not be disappointed with the sound of this thing. It is amazing.